Welcome to Footnotes, a behind-the-scenes look at what we value and why it matters here at Foothill Church in Glendora, California.
Well, hello and welcome back to another episode of Footnotes. My name is Lucas Parks and I'm the missions minister here at Foothill, and I'm sitting in as guest host for Stephen today. That's partly due because the guest that we're chatting with today and I had a conversation that started last week, and we thought it'd be really helpful to continue that here on the podcast. Partly because, well, let's face it, I'm probably a better host than Stephen anyway. So, just kidding. Today we have Travis Cunningham, lead pastor of Story Church. So if you're a part of Foothill, you're probably familiar with Travis. He's one of our church plants in Rancho Cucamonga. So welcome back to the podcast, Travis.
You got it out.
Cucamonga.
There it is. Stephen didn't mess that up. So you are truly the guest host.
Yeah, that's true. It's good to have you with us. And before we get into kind of our topic, you just want to catch us up, how things going out at Story Church lately. It's probably been 6 months or so since we've heard from you. So how's it going out there?
Things are great, man. They're beginning. We're seeing, as you guys are at Foothill, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with everything. As vaccinations roll out, as school goes back in person, we're beginning to see some of our online remnant return to worship and get involved in community and live on mission again. And so we've been doing outdoor worship for 4 or 5 months now, and truly, I've loved it. It's been great. We've got the kids involved in worship, and people are fellowshipping. It's created a real serving culture in the life of our church because we've got tons of tents and chairs, and everyone, it's all hands on deck. So things are going well. The family's doing well. Peyton is finally in school in person, and so she's loving it. She's growing. Katie's loving her new role in our home and in our church. So things are well.
Good. Well, really glad to hear that. You and I last week were talking about a course that we are going to be rolling out next month here at Foothill called Alpha. I'm not sure if our people are aware of that. Some might be aware of it. It's essentially kind of geared toward non-Christians and sharing faith with them. But before we get into the details of Alpha, Travis, people come to faith and come to church in different ways. I grew up, I've been going to church as long as I can remember. I grew up in a Christian home. My mom really is who led me to Christ, brought me to church. So I don't have maybe the experience of, hey, a friend invited me or anything like that. But I think your story is a little bit different. So how did you get invited to come along to church for the first time?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up around church, but not really at all committed to church. I was certainly committed to the kingdom of Travis Cunningham.
Sure.
Wanting to build that and be a part of that and only. And then my best friend came to faith through a long series of events that we just don't have time for. And he immediately started engaging me with the gospel and invited me to read the scriptures with him. And he was doing a mini alpha, so to speak, we can call it that, just in his garage and sharing Jesus and just asking me to consider, who is Jesus? What has he done? And what does the scripture say about him? Not what does culture say about him? What do you say about him? What have you heard about him? But what does the scriptures say? And so he was an evangelist doing a little mini alpha in his garage. And I would say even your mom was an evangelist to you.
For sure. Still is, actually. Yeah. I literally was just talking to her on the phone, and she was telling me about this guy she met and sharing the gospel, going to give him a New Testament. So she is an evangelist at heart for sure. So, and I think one of the things I'm excited about, I think with Alpha and keeping this present too, the best evangelists are normally new Christians because it's such an impact in their life. I've been walking with Jesus for 35 years plus, and sometimes we just kind of like lose that passionate edge of what Jesus has done for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also the longer you walk with the Lord, the more that you know about him, and we can equate theological literacy with spiritual maturity.
That's right, yeah.
But if we're neglecting evangelism, we're not actually spiritually mature.
Yeah.
And to me, this is one of the primary areas that churches like us, like Story Church, like Foothill Church, can really grow.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but all too often I look out at a non-believing friend or family member that I'm building a relationship with, and I create the obstacles and objections in their mind before they do.
That's right, yeah.
And then I don't even try.
Yeah.
And I'm neglecting a core part of my identity in following Jesus, where Jesus has called me, man, go into the unknown and watch me do the miracle of salvation and be wowed by me all over again, like you were when you came to faith. And then you never lose that edge. Like some of my most mature Christian friends are the ones that are the most evangelistic because they're always desperate for Jesus. Yeah. They're always dependent upon Jesus, and they're always asking Jesus to do what only he can do.
For sure. I'm excited. One of the things that's been tough moving to a new city in the middle of a pandemic is the lack of opportunity to be around people, especially lost people. And so I saw the gyms were opening up again. I'm like, well, there's a couple of reasons I need to go back to the gym. It's that 30 pounds I've put on since moving back to America, but also just being around lost people again and getting the opportunity to invite some of those folks to a thing like Alpha. So we'd love to just hear you share why is evangelism so important? Obviously, even as a church planter, that's kind of key to planting a church. Like you're trying to gather people and not just Christians from other places, but the lost. So just share a little bit of your thoughts. Why evangelism is so important?
Yeah, so I think it's important just to, talk about what evangelism is.
Yeah.
So evangelism, developing relationships with non-believers, those who don't yet follow Christ, with an aim of convincing them that following Christ is worth all of it, and doing that through the preaching of the good news of Jesus Christ. And this is God's way of reaching the world. We know this from Matthew chapter 28, that Jesus gives us the commission to go into all the world and make disciples of all the world, of all nations, and teach them to follow Jesus and baptize them. And then we read in Romans chapter 10 when Paul talks about the way in which people become disciples is through the preaching of the word. So evangelizing people through the preaching of the word and the preaching particularly of the good news of the gospel. And so for us as a new church plant, we know in order to grow, it is through the reaching of new people. And so we want to be the tip of the spear, the gospel spear of reaching people in Rancho who have not yet encountered the love of Jesus Christ. And so we know we've got some things to work on, but at the center of what we're doing is evangelism.
Yeah, it's good. I think, part of my role here at Foothill as the missions minister is to interact with guys like you and church planting. And I want to keep that on our radar too, because, that's what, so much of what church planting is gathering people, particularly the lost, to hear the good news. And in an established church like Foothill, sometimes, there's a temptation for that to kind of get lost a little bit. And we just kind of get used to and comfortable with the service that the church provides us as maybe mature Christians. And so that's one of our motivations, I think, for Alpha is to, hey, let's remember that all of us as followers of Jesus are called to share that good news. And there's lots of ways to do that. So you guys have run an Alpha course before. Do you want to just unpack a little bit about what that is for folks that might not know what Alpha course is?
Sure. So Alpha is a ministry based out of the United Kingdom. And is that what we call it? You would know this.
The UK.
The UK. Britain in particular.
It started there. Yeah, it's run around the world now, right?
Yeah, it is. I just wanted to make sure I was appropriate.
That's right,
with your background. You said it a couple times. It's a series of up to 12 weeks of exploring the Christian faith, the claims of Jesus Christ. And what Alpha really emphasizes is that you need a few particular ingredients with non-believers. You need safety, where you can have nothing off limits. You can ask any question and know you're not going to get a reaction from someone. You have time, so we're going to be patient as you explore the claims of Christ. And then there's peace, and there's no volatility.
Yeah.
And so what the Alpha ministry has done a great job of doing is creating something where the bar is really low for anyone and everyone to get involved, to hear the claims of Christ, to ask any questions, and to do it in a safe community. And so Alpha, to me, is one of the best things out there for a wide range of people, whether you're skeptical of the faith, whether you're cynical around the faith, whether you're brand new to the faith, or you're just curious about the faith. They've hit a wide range of material.
Yeah. And you've hit a little bit on like who Alpha's for. I mean, really, we're asking our people to think about what kind of person would they want to invite along to an Alpha course. Really, who's this aimed at?
Yeah. And I actually want to kind of parse that out and do it in two different ways. Yeah. So it's certainly for the people of Foothill Church to invite friends and family that they're building relationship with and building gospel relationships with, to say, hey, come check this out at my church. It's a safe environment. It is certainly aimed at that person. But I would also say on the other end, this is a really good thing for just the people of Foothill Church to be involved in, to consider just evangelism and how do I grow in my evangelistic tendencies. You kind of hinted at it a little bit, but a church that's lost its missional edge to me is a dying church or a decaying church.
Yeah.
And so this could be just a really good primer for the people of Foothill Church that have been following the Lord for however many years to come and be reinvigorated back to the first day, when we first started following Jesus, and we were clueless to what the Bible tells us, and yet we were on fire for Jesus. We loved our neighbors and we shared Jesus with them. So I would say this is for everyone. Yeah. If you're at Foothill Church and you got a friend you've been building relationship with, I would say invite them to come, and then back that up with, I'm going with you.
Sure.
And I want to grow in my evangelism. I want to do this together.
Yeah. I imagine when some people hear the word evangelism, that word is kind of loaded. It comes with all kinds of maybe fear or nervousness with that, or I have to know all these answers. Like if someone listened to that and they're like, well, I know people that I would like to invite them to, but am I going to have to be able to understand like a master's degree level of theology, or maybe even just help us? What does an average night kind of look like for a person bringing along their lost friend?
Yeah, so we did Alpha in kind of a non-classic way. We did it online, obviously in the COVID world. And so what we did is Alpha, they equip you with everything. I mean, you get a video, you get a question and answer guide, you get a coach to walk you through it. And so we took the full package, and we had our people involved in the Alpha class watch the video in advance. Yeah. And then the time of gathering, it was just all discussion based. And so do you have to have a master's level? No. You will have, we can call it a cheat sheet. It's not a cheat sheet, but you'll have some prompts around how to answer certain questions. And truly, if you ever feel in over your head, man, that's just a good opportunity to be honest with someone and just say, hey, I'm not sure here, but let's discover this together. Rather than giving some kind of canned answer, it's another step of relationship. And I find myself in that place all the time when I'm involved around Alpha or with non-believers and they ask a question that I'm not sure about. Hey, let's go discover this together.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned like it's a safe place to be able to do that, I think that's really important. And it's so highly relational. So I can bring a friend and it's safe, not just for them, but even me too. Like I don't have to know all the answers, and we'll have some table leaders and things. So it's not everybody has to lead discussion, but this is a place that I can come. The teaching videos are high quality. They're really pitched for those kind of skeptics and cynics in a lot of ways, for sure.
We were talking last week, and you had watched some of the pre-videos, and they're actually in Jerusalem, like they're on site. Really well put together. Like a non-believer who's used to high quality content on, say, Netflix wouldn't be offended by something that
it's not cheesy Christian level production stuff that sometimes we can get a bit cringy with. I was so pleased it wasn't cringy. It felt really multicultural, really well done. So you've mentioned a little bit of what that looked like at Story. Do you want to fill that out anymore? How have your people reacted, or even some of the people that have came who weren't a part of Story? What's their story now? Have they stuck around? Have they come into your church more and into more of those orbits and relationships?
Yeah, we've had first the people that were already at Story that were helping lead Alpha. They just grew in their maturity, their spiritual formation. So I can't commend that enough to those of you who are listening. If you get tapped on the shoulder to help serve and lead an Alpha, I would just say do it. Just hop in and absolutely do it. It'll be worth it. And then the folks that we individually invited in and got connected to Alpha, most are still around. One person moved to Florida, actually in the middle of Alpha, and because it was digital, he just kept doing it with us, and we stay connected with him. But everyone else is around the church. We have not yet seen faith come, but we're praying for that. And because of the type of DNA that Alpha has built, those people don't feel like at the end of the day, if they didn't accept Jesus, they're not welcome here. They still felt so loved and so welcome that they're connected to the Life of Story Church.
So lots of opportunities to respond to the gospel, to come to faith, but it's not a high pressure sales pitch that at the end of this, if you haven't, signed on the line, then we're kind of done with you. It's really the beginning of a process that you would walk alongside of people, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I think Alpha rides the tension really well of up front. It's not a bait and switch. It is certainly, we want to convince you to follow Jesus, but not because we want to feel better about ourselves, but because we know this is worth it for you. And not on the other end, just pressuring, like you said, and making it a sales pitch. So they ride that tension really well of not capitulating to culture, but also like being serious about the claims of Christ, but not making it feel like if you don't absolutely buy everything we're sending you right now, you're not welcome here.
Yeah. And we're gonna try to do it live. Obviously, we're further on in the kind of COVID season, and we'll probably start that outside. And for us, we're going to provide a meal with that. So we hope that even has even more of a relational kind of vibe to that, where come along, share a meal, let's say Chick-fil-A or Chipotle or whatever it is together, and at least come for some good old Christian chicken, and then so within that. But wanted people to feel like, hey, these are people that aren't strange or weird. These are Christians just like me, have the same questions about life that I do, and this is a place that we can kind of explore that side by side together in that, and really find the answers to a lot of these questions rooted in the gospel. I mean, it's our statement that we say every Sunday, of why we exist. We want to lead people into that growing relationship with Jesus, while it's all rooted in the gospel. And Alpha is a great way to do that. So I know when we do these kind of like courses or evangelism classes, equipping kind of the saints in this is a little bit, I guess, of both. It's really aimed at the non-Christian to come, but those Christians that are inviting people along are also benefiting from that, where, they're in many ways being equipped to have those kind of conversations while they're kicking around a soccer ball and feeling more confident, even within that, for sure. Yep. So I'm excited about that too, to see how that just trickles out into normal everyday life when we're in informal settings as well. Is there anything, as we kind of close, you'd want to add to your experience of either evangelism or even as a church planter for us? I think for the average Christian, even me as a full-time missions pastor, sometimes it kind of, we forget this great commission that Jesus could just take us to heaven after we come to faith, and yet he leaves us here for a reason. So any encouraging words that you want to, a parting shot as we wrap up today?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw it yesterday or the day before. It was kind of floating around the Christian Twitter world. There was a new Barna study that was released that over 50% of Christians, church-going Christians, couldn't say what the Great Commission or the Great Commandment is. So, go into all the world and make disciples, and then love God and love neighbor. Yeah. The most basic of what it means to follow Jesus. And so what I would say is just, if you're at Foothill, be committed to not being that statistic.
Yeah,
be committed. This is what Foothill is all about. This is why Foothill planted Story Church, planted Echo Church, because we're a church planting body. Yeah. And part of church planting, the core part of church planting, is being evangelistic and being missional. And so if we want more of that, and we want more churches absolutely. All throughout Southern California, we have to, every individual, be committed to evangelism. So I would just say, even if you don't have a friend you want to invite into this, I would come. Yeah. I would sign up and be a part of it. And I would grow in my desire to be evangelistic. I would grow in my prayer life to know non-believers and to engage them. And this, to me, is a really good tool in the hands of Foothill Church to spur that on. So grow individually and corporately in evangelism, in mission, and church planting, and let this just be kind of fuel on the fire for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really good. Yeah, it's so much a part of what we are. Even a part of the network that we're part of with Acts 29 is, we talk a lot about church planting, but essentially you're gospel planting. You're planting communities of the gospel for people to come from death to life, from darkness to light. And this is just another tool in our toolbox to do that we're excited about, for sure. And so, yeah, if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in participating, volunteering with, be thinking about, my neighbor, colleague, family member, somebody I could invite and bring along to this. This is a great opportunity for you to do that. Travis, really good to have you on. It's so good to hear what the Lord is continuing to do out in Rancho through you, congregation out at Story, and just super excited to learn from you guys today and see what the Lord might do through this course with Foothill as well. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. And Foothill Church, just want to say it again. Love you guys. Thank you guys. Thank you for praying for us and being with Story Church as we do this venture. And just want to say this, Lucas, you're no longer the guest host. I dub you actual host.
Mission accomplished.
This was way better than my experience with Steve.
Hey, I thought so too, but we'll see. All right, man. Thanks for coming.
All right, well, we're out of time, but thanks for joining us for our podcast, Footnotes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'd also appreciate you sharing this resource with others, and even leaving us a favorable review if you feel so inclined. So until next time, Foothill, peace be with you.
Can you edit this?
Yes.
I'm just still talking through it. Bloopers.